Welcome back to another video. We're out here in Fresh Kills Park. If you don't know, it is basically where the Staten Island dump used to be. They've done a great job capping and remediating and doing all that stuff to make this place a beautiful green space and one of the largest parks, I think, in New York City, period. Today we're gonna make one last season 4 IGOW video, and I wanna talk about the gear that I use to make my videos in IGOW. It's gonna be pretty simple. It's gonna be relatively short. I'm gonna go through and I'm gonna talk about the gear that I used, the drones that I used. I'll also include some brief examples of some of the footage that I got from each of the drones involved. Before I dive into the gear that I used, I want to make it absolutely clear that you don't need this much gear to make videos for IGOW or compete. Realistically, all you need is a pair of goggles that record DVR, one tiny whoop, and some batteries. All that stuff can be had for right around $200 to $300. While a lot of the stuff that I have are really nice to have things during the competition, none of it is necessary. And really the biggest thing is just to jump in and enjoy. So don't feel intimidated. Don't feel like you need everything to compete. Just join in. Without further ado, let's get into that. Before we dive into talking about IGOW, I wanted to give you a brief overview of what I use to produce my IGOW videos this season. Let's start off with the most important part. These are my HDO2 goggles. DVR works pretty well. Not the most consistent frame rate, which is definitely frustrating at some points during the season. I have a TBS Unify video receiver, TrueRC Singularity long antenna, and then a TrueRC patch antenna on the bottom. I also do carry the stubbies with me if I'm going to do some gorilla whooping. Fat Shark battery strap on the back, and then 2 sets of the Sony 18650s. Always got to have a backup, and then a backup to the backup. Got the Race Day Quads 3000 milliamp hour goggle battery. I hate having the beeping that Fat Sharks make when they run low on battery. So having that, especially for longer sessions when I'm chewing through batteries, when I'm out in the field, always essential. Like any video production, you need a backup to your backup. This is basically a little monitor that I can tune into the frequency and channel that I'm flying on. That is wonderful as a backup. If for whatever reason the DVR fails on the Fat Sharks, I always have a recording there. I can also put that recording closer to, say, where I'm flying if I can't be right next to the obstacle that I'm flying in, so I can get a little bit better reception possibly. Next, we have the batteries and chargers. I use this charger for my 18650s. It works well. I got it off Amazon. Uses USB-C, which everything else charges with USB-C. Why can't my 18650s? Over here, I have a power bank attached to my ViFly V3, which I got halfway through the season. I also have the V2 version, but this is basically the essential kit for charging tiny whoop batteries. It has storage charge mode, works for high volt, works for regular, and down here you can see I have a mix of all of the above. I have a bunch of GMB, a bunch of Beta FPV, and a bunch of Tattoo batteries, all of them on BT 2.0, and then I have FYS Crafts batteries that I got midway through the season as well. Definitely going to stock up next year before IGOW. As far as the radio goes, this was my primary flyer. I did bust out the Boxer at least once throughout the competition, but it's a Radiomaster Zorro ELRS edition, AGO1 gimbals installed, and then the thumb grippy stick ends there, which were amazing, especially when the hot summer days made sweating on the controller a thing. Gross. Down here, I've got a electronic screwdriver that's been part of my tiny whoop kit for years. This is great for swapping motors, especially in the field, because it was quick and easy. And then this is my spare parts slash prop slash other tools bag. This thing has been fantastic, and you might notice that I do have a prop popper now. This is the best way to get a tiny whoop prop on and off. They're like gold in the tiny whoop community. And that's what I flew this year. It's unlikely to change for season 5. The only thing that may get swapped out is the Radiomaster Pocket for the Zorro, but we will see after I've flown a bunch more batteries through it. The only other thing that's possible to change is I do eventually want to get a set of HD0 goggles because the DVR for analog is better, and also I definitely want to start flying some more HD whoops, and HD0 seems like the best system for that. Now we get to the most fun part of my IGOW kit, and that is the drones themselves. Starting out, we have the Mob 6. This is the ELRS edition. It has the TrueRC ultra short antenna in the back, tri-blade 31mm props, upgraded motors to the 26,000 kV Happy model motors, and I have a BT 2.0 connector on there. Other than that, it's stock, Really didn't break much aside from props, and I did crack a canopy, but it's still on there and still powering through. Super strong. I love this canopy. Next, we have the Mobeetle 6. This thing is basically stock. The only thing that's changed is the BT 2.0 connector, and you can see I did solder this on Ciotti style. So the leads basically exit 180 from the connector. So when you're plugging in those stick batteries, it's super easy. I did glue in the camera to the canopy to give it a little extra strength and durability. Other than that, straight stock. Great for learning Matty flips because of its weight is so low. Next, we move on to the workhorse of the fleet. This is an ELRS Mobeetle 7. This is technically nearly a new drone. This took the most damage out of all of the other drones during the IGOW competition. Broke 3 frames, 1 flight controller, 1 motor, 1 canopy. Yeah, this thing took some absolute beatings. Obviously, I went through a whole bunch of props. The only one that came close is here. I broke 2 different frames. The reason this is the workhorse is it really does fly great outdoors and indoors. So during building dive week, this thing was a champion. And especially when flying in windier conditions, those 1002 motors with the high KV really give it a ton of thrust. This one also probably has the most modifications out of the group. It has different motors, the Flywoo 1002 23,900 kV motors, running a quad blade props, 75mm, BT 2.0 connector swapped onto the bottom, and an ultra sharp True RC singularity antenna up top. This thing really is the king of indoors and outdoor flights. It flies super, super fast, and because I run a throttle limit on my controller, it also is super smooth. And so it really was pretty much busted out every challenge. Next, we have the Beta FPV Meteor 65 Pro, running the 35mm tri-blade props, upgraded 23,000 kV motors, slightly higher than the 19,000 that come on it. Other than that, it's pretty much stock, and I've only really destroyed the props and 1 motor, which is why I upgraded to the higher kV motors. I did also swap this one around to the Ciotti style plug. It's the only way to run any tiny whoop battery plug. And last but not least, we have the Mobeetle 7 HD ELRS edition. There is nothing changed on that drone. It is as stock gets. It really only got to chase a skateboarder once and do some tree surfing because it has that nice external DVR, so it captures 1080p footage. So it's nice and crystal clear for that scavenger hunt week. And that really rounds it out. These are what I flew for IGOW Season 4, and this is probably pretty similar to what I'm going to fly for IGOW Season 5. It took me a couple of weeks after finishing out the season to get everything back up and running perfectly again, and we're pretty close. The only 2 things I have left to do are switch these 2 BT 2.0 connectors to face the other way around, so that way they're a little easier to plug into those stick batteries. Other than that, looking pretty good for a fleet. And that's it. That's all the gear and all the drones that I used in this year's IGOW 4 competition. Not much, except for maybe the Radio Master Pocket is going to change in that kit for Season 5. I want to make one thing really clear again when it comes to IGOW. You don't need multiple drones. Honestly, if I was going to do the same thing with only 1 drone, it would be that Mob 6 or the Mob 7. Either of those I think are fantastic options. A close second might be the Meteor 65 Pro. I think that also did fly very well. I just know that Beta FPV has a pretty long history of questionable quality control when it comes to its products. So getting something DOA is always frustrating and it's harder to recommend. If you competed at IGOW, let me know down in the comments. What did you use? Also, let me know if you found any new gear during the season. Me personally, I found the prop popper. That prop popper is next freaking level. And as always, the links down below for all the equipment that I personally use are Amazon affiliate links. If you use them, it doesn't cost you anything extra and does help support this channel. So thank you so much for joining me on this video, and I will see you in the next one. Peace. Bye.